Hey, today we're gonna make pizza dough. You'll need flour, salt, dry yeast, either in a jar or in a packet, and olive oil. So in my bowl, I have 2 and about a 1/4 cup of flour. You want just a little bit less than a 1/4 cup, but don't overthink it. And you're gonna add to that 1 teaspoon of salt. Give that a quick stir just to make sure it's all mixed together. And now we're gonna get our yeast ready. All right, so now we wanna get our yeast going. So if you have this kind of measuring cup and you can fill to the 200 ml line, that's great. Otherwise, just a little bit less than a cup. And you want warm water, not hot. I like to think of it like shower temperature. And you're gonna add 3/4 of a teaspoon of yeast to that, and 1 teaspoon of olive oil. Give that a little stir and just let it sit. Okay, so we've let the yeast sit for just, about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Doesn't have to be precise. We're just gonna want it to get dissolved, a little cloudy. We're gonna make a little well in the center of our flour mix. We're gonna pour the yeast into the well. You wanna sort of scrape it out if you can. And now we're gonna do our first knead. So with nice clean hands, all we're gonna do is try to get all of the flour a little bit wet. After about 3 minutes, you'll have a ball of dough that looks something like this. It's pretty sticky, feels a little lumpy, but maybe, and you'll have some dough on your fingers, but it'll be not too hard to get off. If it's not coming together at all, you may need to add just a tiny bit more water, maybe a tablespoon or 2. And if it feels way, way, way too sticky, add just a tiny bit more flour. All right, we're gonna let it sit for about 15 minutes. We're gonna give it about 3 more minutes of kneading. So when you knead, you wanna sort of drive the heel of your hand in, fold it over, give it a rotation, and do it again. Because right now, we're gonna start building up the gluten in our dough. And it's gonna be a little sticky, but it should be getting smoother, even if it's not necessarily getting less sticky. And the warmth from your hands is going to activate the yeast so that it rises. We've got our dough, it's smooth, it's a little sticky, but not too sticky. And we are gonna get it ready to rise. So we wanna take a surface, it can be a cutting board, it can be a plate, it can really be anything. I'm gonna use a cookie sheet. Put some good flour down on it. You're gonna take your dough. Of course my hands are wet now, but that's okay. And you're gonna form it into 2 balls. 2 relatively even balls, and you are going to put it down on your work surface. You're gonna put them a little bit apart because they are going to get bigger, and we're just gonna cover them with a little bit more flour. Make sure that any sort of stickiness is covered. And then we're going to take a damp cloth, not a wet cloth. Just make sure it's really wrung out. And we are gonna cover these guys. They can either go in the fridge for 8 hours or overnight, or they can sit on the counter for about 3 to 4 hours. Okay, so we are going to check on our pizza dough. Those look absolutely lovely, nice and bubbly, lots of action. Mwah. We are gonna do 2 different things with our pizza doughs. We're gonna do 1 flat, thin crust pizza on our pizza stone, and we are gonna do 1 deep dish skillet pizza. So we're gonna let the flat, thin crust dough rise a little bit longer, but we're gonna oil up our skillet, get it nice and juicy, and we are going, just wanted to make this not super sticky. We're gonna take one of our doughs and we're gonna start to get it ready. So we'll pull it up from the pan, trying not to disturb the other one too much. Here we go. And we're gonna sort of move that flour around. Definitely wanna brush off the extra flour on the back here, as much as we can. Don't have to overthink it too hard though. It's just flour. It's okay. All right, and we are going to take it into the pan. We're gonna smush that oil around. That oil on your way? Smush that oil around in the pan. It's okay if it's a little extra oily. Just makes it more delicious. We're gonna put one side down. Okay, so we got oil on both sides now. A nice bit of oil still in the pan. And we are going to just dimple it with our fingertips and press it all the way to the edge of the pan. And that is going to sit for another couple of hours. We'll keep checking on it, make sure it doesn't pull away too much, but it feels like it's pretty good. You want it kind of consistent, so if you need to kind of push the dough around a little bit, so it's a consistent thickness. Oh, we got a bubble. Here we go. No more bubble. And I'm excited about this experimental 2 different kinds. We'll do a taste test. And all that oil is going to get very delicious. Okay, we'll be back in a couple of hours. So our dough has been sitting here for about an hour or 2. Doesn't have to be precise. It's looking pretty nice. This guy's got a little more body, and this one has just kind of continued to puff up a little bit. So what we want to do is make a little indent to just divide the crust part of the pizza. If it's too sticky, add a little more flour. Not that we don't have enough around here. So we've got a little division. We're going to keep the top and the bottom the bottom. That's the bottom. It's got all the flour on it. We're going to brush off that excess. We can actually brush it onto our pizza peel. So what you want to have ready to go is the pan on which you're going to prep your pizza. For us, we use a pizza stone so that we're going to put it on a pizza peel first and then slide it directly onto the pizza stone. If you're going to cook on a regular cookie sheet or on a round pizza pan, just build your pizza right on there. So you're going to flip it back and forth, and you're going to sort of toss it like a little upright frisbee, and it's going to slowly stretch. And you can go around and use your thumbs to kind of press down any thicker spots. Be kind to any spots that are getting a little thin. It's okay if it gets thin, but you don't want it to break because this dough doesn't pinch back together particularly well. We're looking pretty good here. You can also flop it down if it's starting to get unruly and stretch it on your pizza making surface. Pizza can be any shape you want. It can be round, it can be a heart, it can be a misshapen amoeba, really whatever you want. And we're gonna let this sit here for a few minutes while we prep the rest of our toppings. Don't wanna get too crazy with the toppings. You wanna let the pizza shine, but that's that. We're ready to build. All right, we built the pizza. Crust, cheese, sauce, cheese, a little dried basil for the top. This is gonna go in a nice hot oven. We've got it to 550. We're gonna put it in the lower half. Thin crust pizza is gonna go on that pizza stone, but this guy's gonna sit in here for about 15 to 20 minutes.